There is, my local barista is a member of the YangGang. Nice. And he talks you up all the time, and I want to know, what is your version, and what do you think, like talk to us about the YangGang and what it's all about.
Rule number one is you don't talk about YangGang. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Actually, rule number one is you always talk about YangGang, like your barista. So YangGang is just this name that bubbled up for people who support the campaign. And it's just, like as a journalist said, it's just fun to say. It's so fun to say that people have even written songs about it. They're just like the YangGang anthem. But it bubbled up. Yeah, there's several songs actually. You can Google that. Well, what the YangGang means to me is just people that are embracing a vision of an economy that puts people first and that starts serving our goals and values instead of us all, frankly, like trying to turn ourselves into something that's useful to the marketplace. And so to me, the YangGang is just people who believe in humanity first.
I'd like to hear how you're going to pay for it. I know when you were at Drake, you told us how you'd pay for that freedom dividend. And I'd also like to know whether you would, I think most people want to work. You know, we had a WPA, a CCC back in the Depression. You know, there's a lot of just, you know, self-worth about working. And we could combine that with your freedom dividend.
Well, number one was how do you pay for it? And then number two was what do you think about jobs programs like they had in the Depression with the WPP and the Civilian Conservation Corps, I think it was the CCC. So first, in terms of how you pay for it, I was talking about how Amazon paid zero in taxes, Netflix also paid zero in taxes, and so the big winners from artificial intelligence and the new economy are going to be this set of really big tech companies. And so the key is to try and get some of the money back from them and give it to you all. And then you'll spend it, and then you'll make the economy stronger. So if you look at what other countries have already done, every other advanced economy aside from ours already has a value-added tax, which would then give the American public a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad. And because our economy is up to 20 trillion plus, a value-added tax at even half the European level generates over 800 billion in new revenue. Now, this is the magic. If I give the money out to you all, the owners of this country, you spend it, and then your neighborhood economy grows, and then we get more tax revenue back. The trickle-up economy would actually work, unlike the trickle-down economy, which was total garbage and nonsense. They kind of knew that. It's even an insulting name. Think about it, the trickle-down economy. Anyway, so you get 800 billion from the value-added tax. You get about 400 billion in new tax revenue from economic growth, and then you save hundreds of billions on incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room health care, and other things that we spend hundreds of billions on now, over $1 trillion in the aggregate. And then here's the magic. If we put this money into our hands, what happens is our kids get stronger, they get better nutrition, graduation rates go up, health improves, mental health improves, relationships improve, domestic violence goes down, hospital visits go down. And there was one study that showed that if you were just to alleviate poverty in this country, we would increase GDP by 700 billion just on the basis of having stronger and healthier and more mentally healthy and productive people. So that's the magic of the trickle-up economies. The money doesn't disappear. It's investing in us. It's not left, it's not right, it's forward. And so that's like this is going to be much less expensive. We're going to get a lot of the money back. And I used to run businesses, and when you have a good business, you all the time talk about investing in your people. You say, if I invest in my people, then my organization will get stronger and do better. In the public space, we do the opposite. We're like, do not invest in those people at all if you can help it. And then we just end up paying at the back end when they wind up incarcerated or in our emergency room or in our services. When I was in New Hampshire, I'm very politician-y. When I was in New Hampshire a couple months ago, it was a corrections officer who said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we pay so much when they're in jail. So we have to start treating ourselves the way that good companies treat their people. We need to invest in ourselves, invest in our people.
Yes, my name is Mr. Linga. My coworkers, they are all strong Republicans. But when they saw you and me, I've always been a Democrat. But when they saw you on Ben Shapiro's show, Mr. Tucker Carlson's show, they want to convert to Democrats. I attended Mrs. Elizabeth Warren's rally, and when after the rally, we always make a line to get personal pictures. But I noticed when you are in Washington, D.C., you are, it was all about selfies. So while can we, the people here, can we, after this event, make a line and get personal pictures?
I'll go with a second first. I will wait here until every single person here has a selfie who wants one. I'm not going anywhere. Now, that would not be the case if I was in a place like Michigan. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. To the first point, I think that Democrats are doing ourselves a huge disservice by declaring certain venues off limits. I mean, how can you win an election if you're not showing up on places like Fox, which, like it or not, that's where millions of Americans get their news. Like, I mean, you know, it's like it or not, again, I mean, we have to win a national election. And so, like the fact that the DNC said that Fox couldn't host a debate, to me was very counterproductive. What's that? Wow. It's my fans, no. So the fact that I would go on Fox News, to me, it's just introducing myself to Americans. And if we can get more people like your friends to convert to Democrats, then that is how we win. Like, if I'm elected president thanks to you all, this is not a far out policy at all. Like, so bear with me. So I become president in 2021, and then you know the entire reaction is going to be like the anonymous Asian man who wants to give everyone money just became president. How did that happen? And then all the Democrats and progressives will be super psyched because they'll be like, oh, let's work with a new Democratic president who beat Donald Trump and get money to children and families. And then Republicans and conservatives are going to look up and say, wait a minute, I kind of like this because this is money that's going to go to rural areas and red states on the interior. And we do not need 80% of Congress to pass the dividend. We just need 51%. So let's say we get the dividend across the finish line, and then President Yang is going to be like, all right, now climate change. And then we're going to be able to accelerate progress towards climate change because those people that earlier could not focus on anything but paying their bills now have their heads up. And then when you say climate change is an existential threat, they'll look at their children and say, yes, it is. So this is just my choice of tactics, but we are 100% aligned on where we need to go. I'm for carbon fee and dividend. I'm for rejoining the Paris Accords. I'm for clean air and water as actual measurements of the economy. So my description of the people that have this boot on their throats, that's not saying like, I think the penguins can wait. Like what I was saying is like, look, we have to be real. If Americans can't pay their bills, then like that's job number one for them and their families and their kids. But then we can move towards climate change as fast as possible. The brutal truth though is that America only accounts for 15% of global emissions. So even if we go whole hog and move towards renewables as fast as possible, we're probably only going to slow the rate of climate change incrementally. Even if we try and lead the world in the same direction. Unfortunately, the stuff that's making you very like depressed and like angry about the future of the global climate, it's happening. Like, you know, and even if we were to adopt very intelligent policies and get our share of global emissions down, the fact is a lot of the world is at a different point in their development cycle and they're just gonna keep on burning the cheapest forms of energy possible. So we should invest in trying to mitigate the worst effects of climate change because it is probably coming our way regardless of what sort of policies we we adopt.
Thank you, thank you. It's my honor to ask you questions, Ms. Yang. And I am Chinese students study in the Drake University, and I am curious about how do you think of the trade war between China and the US, and what would you do if you become the president? Thank you.
So I've talked to many farmers here in Iowa who feel stabbed in the back by the trade war. You know, in many cases, they supported Donald Trump, and then they said, I can't believe now these tariffs are making it much harder for me to sell my goods and maintain relationships abroad. There are real problems and imbalances in the US-China trade relationship, particularly their theft of intellectual property. But the trade war, to me, was the wrong approach, because the trade war ended up causing problems on both sides of the border. It caused the zero-sum game where really neither American farmers or businessmen are winning, or people on the other side. And as someone who's run a business, I would be furious if I'd made investments and planned months or years in advance, and then you change the prices on me. Or I talked to a farmer yesterday who spent years building up a relationship, and now that relationship is gone, and he's like, I'm not sure we're ever gonna get it back. And it took me 6 years to build that relationship. I would be furious. And so I am not the type that would change the rules on people that had been trying to make their farms or businesses more successful or internationally competitive. And if I were to try and do something like a tariff, I would literally give people like 3 years notice so that you don't have the rug pulled out from under you and that everyone can make adequate plans. But that would not be something I would be for in most any circumstance, because there are other ways, in my opinion, to address the imbalances. I will say that many Americans have problems with our current trade relationships because they feel like we're getting a raw deal. And in some cases we are. And that the goal has to be that to the extent that America's winning from trade, that Americans actually feel like we're participating in those winnings. And it's not just that a few companies are getting rich while Americans are losing on the other end.
Hello, thank you for taking our questions. Do you think it's beneficial to give the dividend, the freedom dividend, to people over a certain income, such as millionaires and billionaires, since they're not gonna spend that money?
Well, so this is the fun part. Let's use Jeff Bezos as an example, because he's literally, one of the richest Americans. He's worth 160 billion. I think it's down to 80 billion. So that's a divorce joke. It's still a lot of money. So we're going to extract billions of dollars from Jeff because he's the biggest shareholder of this $1 trillion tech company that we're then going to be extracting, tens, hundreds of billions. We're going to be getting billions of dollars from Jeff. So then if we send him $1,000 a month just to remind him he's an American, it's fine. You know what I mean? But there are real values to universalizing it. And Alaska proves this. So number one is you destigmatize it. It's not like some people get it and other people don't. Number two, it's not seen as a rich to poor transfer. It's not like I'm giving it to you, you're getting it from me. Number three, you get rid of any incentives to somehow underreport your income or to have to monitor people. You just don't care. You're like, you're an American, you're a citizen, here's $1,000. And this is why it's so universally popular in Alaska, because they're not means testing it there. They're just like, you're an Alaskan, here's your $2,000. And that's one reason why it's been so successful and it stood the test of time for almost 40 years through many, many different administrations, is that if someone else is getting it, then it's easier to attack it. But if we're all getting it, it's very, very hard to attack.